Okay, hello everyone. My name is Tori Glasker, and I've decided to present on challenging behavior in the classroom. If you have any questions about my presentation, please feel free to email me at toriglasker@gmail.com. Okay, so in the first video that I asked you guys to watch, it's understanding challenging behavior in young children. Some main points from the video were behavior often reflects a child trying to communicate his or her needs. So this is just saying, like, when a child is acting out or causing problems in a classroom, usually it's because they need something or they want something. So we just need to be able to um, figure out what it is that they need and what they are trying to communicate to us. The behavior of a child can be influenced by various factors. A lot of those were talked about in the video. Um, so we have to be able to diffuse those situations and be able to try to avoid putting the children in situations that could present challenging behavior. Also, every child comes from different backgrounds and different families. So we must be understanding of the child's circumstances and needs and different things that each child is going to need from us as a teacher. So we have to be able to pay close attention to how they are when they get to school, when they are leaving school, when they're being picked up by their parents, because everything every factor that's in a child's life can be affecting the way that child behaves in a classroom. The second video I guys had you watch was called Reflecting on Our Responses and Reactions to Children's Behavior. Some things that I pulled from that video that I thought were some important pieces were just being able to acknowledge your emotions and your hot buttons, because challenging behavior is inevitable when working with young children, and we are all human beings, right? So how we respond to things won't always be the best way. So if we can acknowledge how we're feeling in certain moments and what is getting us frustrated, then maybe we'll be able to plan ahead, like the second bullet, plan ahead for our response and how we are going to manage handling our own emotions. It's also a great way to be able to teach the children. If we can explain to them when we are feeling frustrated, then they can see that that's a normal feeling. And if we can show them how to calmly respond to those frustrations or emotions that we're feeling, that's a great learning experience. Okay, Article 1, Tips for Responding to Challenging Behavior in Young Children. So this article gave a number of tips on how to manage challenging behavior, but it does address that some of the most effective ways to combat challenging behavior is working on the preventative side. So working with the environment, how you're giving feedback to the children, and being able to teach social skills and emotional competencies. So I know Tora talked about social emotional learning last week, and so I think my topic actually goes hand in hand with hers. Um, the use of response strategies is intended to reduce the likelihood of challenging behavior, but it's not effective unless we are being able to teach those social skills, those social and emotional skills along the way while we are combating some challenging behavior. The second article that I brought was Preventing Challenging Behavior in Young Children. So effective classroom, effective classroom environments are a great way to prevent challenging behavior. Having a well-organized space with engaging classroom activities that are developmentally appropriate practices, like we've also discussed. Because if the activities and materials are too difficult or too easy, challenging behavior will more likely occur because students are feeling either bored or they are too frustrated with the task at hand. Um, Developing a positive interpersonal climate begins with implementing engaging activities that are developmentally and individually appropriate for all children. So we just need to make sure when we are planning our lessons that we are taking into account the students that we have in our classes and making sure that these are appropriate for the level that they are on, and that this can challenge them, but will be something that they can learn from, and will not easily get frustrated, which can bring that challenging behavior. Scheduling is also a great way to prevent challenging behavior. Children like predictability and knowing what is coming next. So if we can create and teach daily schedules, it'll help communicate to the children about organization of daily activities and events, because most often, or more often than not, they'll be following a schedule at some point in their lives, especially as they progress in school. So being able to teach them schedules can help create some more structure in the classroom. Rules, rituals, and routines are also a great way. Um, when I was working at Girls Inc. as a facilitator, before every class, at the very beginning of every class, in the year or quarter, we were on a quarter system, we would sit down with the group of students that we had and create rules. So this was a great way to not only uh, give the students rules in the classroom that they needed to follow. But it was also a great way to give them some autonomy in being able to pick some of the rules that they had on the list, and as well as the consequences that came about when they didn't follow those rules. I felt in doing this, the girls were more engaged and they were more willing to follow the rules further down the line, because they knew they created the rules and they wanted to respect them. Okay, so Article 3, culturally appropriate positive guidance for young children. So we've talked about some ways to combat behavior that we see in the classroom. I'm going to talk about some, uh, or I'm going to keep going on the guidance that we talked about in the last article, but talking more about a cultural side and a cultural approach to guiding children, because when we are getting new students in our class, they are all coming from different backgrounds and different home styles. So being able to help all of our students understand that everyone has different cultural practices at home and that we must be able to respect all of them. I think a great way to teach culture in the classroom and bring it in the classroom and um, connect it to lessons is telling stories of different cultural practices. Um, that way, students can see that just because they do something a certain way at home doesn't mean everyone is following those same guidelines. Many behaviors have cultural roots, and so as teachers, we can see, like, when we are engaging with our students, and if they are having behaviors that we don't necessarily like or are disruptive to a class, identifying those and putting like our cultural lens on can help us be able to notice if a student's behavior is because they are coming home from home with that behavior, or if it's just a behavior that they're having in the classroom. And then recognizing some of the conflicts among students, because due to differences, that can cause arguments and differences among the students. And especially for early childhood learners, they may not always understand that people will have differences and will do things differently than them. So we must be able to get them to understand that there may not always be one right way to do something. My next article was about timeouts. Timeout is a form of discipline that can be effective in reducing challenging behaviors in young children. The term timeout is short for timeout from positive reinforcement. So this just means when a child is acting out or being disruptive, this could mean that they are seeking attention, or we could be giving them positive or giving them that reinforcement that that behavior is okay when we are giving them attention and like focusing specifically on them. So it could teach them that that behavior is not correct. So timeouts are effective, but they are effective when used in the context of a comprehensive approach to behavior support. So rather than just always going to timeouts, we need to make sure that one, the scenario is okay for a timeout, but also that we are being able to teach them and encourage positive social behaviors rather than just going straight to disciplinary actions, because the students will need to be able to understand why their behavior was not correct and or incorrect, and why that behavior should change. Another major point from that article was building positive relationships. It is super important to be able to have a positive relationship with all your students. Um, uh, it may not always be super easy to love every single one of your students the exact same, especially looking back on Article 1, or yeah, I think it was Article 1, our hot buttons, or it was from the video, our hot buttons, and engaging our own emotions. We may not always have great days with every child, but we do always need to make them feel valued and like they are important, because in a classroom, they will find the most success when they are valued and cared for. Um, and then here are my references. Thank you for watching my video. I will be posting my questions and I can't wait to hear all of your responses.